We're getting started. I now call to order the November 10, 2021 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Business Meeting. Acting County Administrator Nancy Bush is with us here today. Nancy, would you please call the roll?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Before I do that, I want to mention that this evening we have Sean Littlegren with us is our County Counsel, and Shannon Bays is our Clerk to the Board this evening. So now for the roll call, Commissioner Schull.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty for all. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone, for joining us tonight. Commissioner Savas will not be joining us today, and both Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Schrader will be joining us remotely via Zoom. Thank you very much. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual time. As always, the public is welcome to sign up to testify. Registration for public comment will close 5 minutes after 6 p.m. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed during this meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Nancy, can you call up the first item?
Yes, thank you. First, we have a COVID update from Phil and Mason Joyner. If we can pull Phil up here.
Good evening, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Nice to be here this evening to provide our regular COVID-19 update. And Shannon, if you can go to the first slide, provide an update on our weekly case and death data in Clackamas County and in the region. So in Clackamas County over the past week, cases have gone down a little bit, 583 cases and 19 deaths, sadly. Multnomah County, almost 2,000 cases and 44 deaths. And in Washington County, 679 cases and 24 deaths. Our next slide shows the weekly trend. So as I can, this is every week since the start of the pandemic back in March of 2020. We, as I've mentioned the past couple of weeks, we can anticipate a bit of a jagged decline downward. So 741 the week previously, and now at about 568 this week. So good news to see that number go down and not go up. We are currently managing 89 active outbreaks right now, our contact tracing team. Most of those are related to schools and long-term care facilities, so that pattern continues. Commissioner Fisher last week asked for a lot of information about long-term care facilities and specifically what's happening in Clackamas County. There's a lot of information that's published on the county's website and data to dive into. At a high, quick level, I'll just share that we are seeing now that residents are getting COVID-19 more frequently than employees. And long-term care residents are a highly, highly vaccinated group of individuals, those community members, but they're also highly vulnerable, older adults, many with underlying health conditions. So when we look at our hospitalization and deaths, while overall those are down, we are seeing it disproportionately impacting this community. And it really does speak to why booster shots really are highly, highly recommended for this population. There's also a lot of interest around school quarantine, and that continues. We continue to advocate to the Oregon Health Authority and to discuss different options for moving forward. One of the benefits of a student being fully vaccinated is that if they've been exposed to COVID-19, they do not have to quarantine. Currently, all of our schools are following our guidance and requirements from the Oregon Health Authority around a 14 or 10-day quarantine if they are unvaccinated and been in close contact with someone that's had COVID-19. We're very interested in a test to stay model, which means that if you've been exposed, you would have regular testing available to you. We are continue to hear from the Oregon Health Authority that federal supplies of rapid tests are going to get a large influx coming to the state. That hasn't happened yet. We anticipate hopefully in the next couple of weeks that those shipments will be provided and be able to distribute it to all of our schools. That'll be great news. And we recognize that testing is one piece. It's the supply of the test, but it's also to make sure each school across this entire county has enough of the administrative support to administer those tests, to process those tests, to analyze those tests, provide the information to the family about, based on the results, what they need to do. That is a body of work that right now isn't happening. It's going to be a big lift for our schools, and we continue to meet with our schools to work on this. It's going to take I think, several weeks, if not months, before we can fully realize this. One solution to meet this growing need is, it's taken a while, but we do have a regular testing location at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds that we've stood up in Canby. It's every Thursday to Monday going forward. It's a drive-through clinic. Really want to thank our contractor, Curative, that has helped us put this in place, and staff have worked really hard to make this available for the community. It's free. You can schedule an appointment at cur.tv/Canby to schedule an appointment today, and there are appointments available. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. My final slide tonight, we have opened up our pediatric appointments for the community. So ages 5 to 11, our first events occurred this week. I was at the Clackamas Town Center Mall this afternoon with a completely booked schedule of appointments and lots of families wanting to get their children access to the vaccine. So that's been nice to see. All of our appointments are all filled right now. We have about 900 pediatric vaccines every week that are coming in. We are, I think over time we'll continue to get more pediatric vaccines available so we can expand our capacity. Also, we really need more vaccinators to help us, and we continue to be hiring to get more folks to help us to provide the vaccine. We've been working with all 10 of our local school districts, providing information directly to families on how they can access appointments, but I do want to really encourage the community. I know a lot of folks are searching online for appointments. It feels a lot like when we started this process with the seniors, wanting to have access to appointments and not enough appointments to meet the need. You can go to getvaccinated.oregon.gov and sign up. You'll get notified either through a phone call or a text or an email when an appointment in your local area is available. And that's going to be one of the most efficient ways for you to get notified when an appointment's available. We're also working with the Oregon Health Authority to bring back a high capacity vaccine site in the Wilsonville area. And I'm hoping to be able to announce the specifics on that soon. And with that is what I wanted to share tonight. Thank you so much.
Philip, I have a question for you. Thank you for your report. You mentioned there were two categories of high rates of COVID infection, and that was schools and our long-term care facilities, correct?
Those are the two places where outbreaks are happening most frequently. of
Okay,
COVID-19.
outbreaks happening most frequently. However, isn't in our long-term care facilities, aren't those people the most highly vaccinated population in the county?
They are highly vaccinated, and
So why are
as
they
we-
breaking out? Why is COVID running rampant in those care facilities if they've been vaccinated?
We are seeing folks, as we age, your immune response and your immunity does wane over time. And that's why we're really encouraging and providing booster shots. It is a concern that if COVID enters one of these facilities, that even though vaccinated, these older adults are still at risk of COVID-19. sadly.
So you just said, if I'm understanding this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a highly vaccinated population, but it's also the highest concentration of COVID outbreaks in the county. How is that possible? I'm not understanding that.
Well, Chair, as I said, this is a high-risk setting.
It's a high-risk setting, but Philip,
That's
there
vulnerable.
are a lot of high-risk settings out there. But this is a highly vaccinated population that's not only had 1 and 2 shots, but I suspect that many of them have had their boosters. So explain to me how that is happening. I don't understand the medical efficacy behind this.
Yeah, Chair, many have received boosters, but not all. And over
So
time,
so are you telling me the booster is going to save us from contracting COVID? And the booster is available how soon after the second shot?
6 months after the second
6
shot.
months after. So 2 vaccinations of COVID only last 6 months or less, and we need to have a third booster. And the third booster, the ingredients are the same as the first 2 shots, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So how long will we need a 4th booster? Or a 5th
that I
booster?
cannot speak
Or
to
a
tonight.
6th booster, because people are still coming down with COVID? That is the public health question that I believe needs to be answered across the entire state of Oregon. But I'm not going to put you on the spot. I don't expect you to answer that tonight. But I do think it bears investigation. Commissioner Fisher, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. Philip, as I understand, with the long-term care facilities, people that have not received the booster are the ones that are getting sick. Is that my understanding that correctly?
I think that that's an area of concern. Our data doesn't point to that exactly, but I do think that it definitely speaks to the need for boosters.
Okay. I would really like to know, because we probably don't have data since the boosters are so new, but it would be good to know if there are breakthrough cases with people that have received booster shots. Do you have any data about that?
I would say we have some data. I would say it's still incomplete because boosters are in process. People are still receiving them this week. It takes a while before your body builds the protection from boosters. So this work is happening as we speak right now. I think as we move forward in the weeks and months to come, we will have data on that, of course.
Great. So as soon as you have something, if you could let us know, that would be wonderful. And then another question, because I am very interested in this test to stay idea that everyone seems to agree with, but can't seem to implement it due to lack of supply and staffing to administer. What if somebody can get their own test? Could that be a means to get back in school and not have to do a 14-day quarantine?
Yeah, the state of Oregon right now is considering as if we can't get to test the state across the entire state for every school community. If we can't do that, then moving to that 7-day quarantine with a negative test seems like a reasonable middle ground. There is still concern about equity around that. Can every school do that? Can every family get access to a negative test, in order to return from quarantine early? As long as, as a state, that we can assure that happens, that's a good thing to do, but we have to have, in Clackamas County, we have to assure that each of our 10 districts and 150 schools that's going to be possible. And we certainly know that there continues to be testing constraints, and families to be able to access tests continues to be an ongoing challenge.
So where's the decision point for that? Is that with the Oregon Department of Education, with the Oregon Health Authority, or is that with us?
That is with, yes, the Oregon Health Authority and Oregon Department of Education.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
very
if
much.
we can somehow figure out a way to make testing just for the general population, which is important to have that testing available, more available, that we should really move in that direction, because kids missing school is a real concern ongoing. Thank you, Philip.
Commissioner Fisher, you bring up some valid points with schools, and I share those points. But my question for Philip is, do we have test kits available to do the amount of testing that's required? Does Oregon even have such a thing?
The warehouses and the testing supplies are pretty lit. Our supplies are being depleted. There's so much demand to get testing done right now.
So our supplies are being
We're being
depleted.
told in the next few weeks there's going to be a big influx of federal supplies. I'm really hopeful that does in fact happen.
So do we even know how many tests we have available in this state and what the priority would be for tests?
We certainly continue to prioritize anyone that's symptomatic or been exposed to COVID-19. That takes priority over.
We prioritize those, but if we're talking about testing all the school kids in Oregon, I suspect, and I'm not expecting you to answer this because you're not in charge of this. You just happen to be the guy on the other end of our questions, and I do appreciate your service. I suspect that we can't even come close to meeting the supply that's required to test all children in schools on an ongoing basis. I think that's very real. Thank you very much. We're going to move on. Thank you, Philip, for coming tonight, and your service is invaluable to Clackamas County. Nancy, what's up next?
Yeah, thank you, Philip. So I'd like to invite Erica Silver from our Health, Housing, and Human Services to lead our Veterans Day presentation. And Erica, I think you have a couple people with you, so please introduce them and yourself for the record. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward, Erica Silver. I'm looking forward to this presentation. You may begin.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Commissioners, Acting County Administrator, County Council, and Clerk. Thank you very much for having us this evening. My name's Erica Silver. I'm a Human Services Manager with Health, Housing, and Human Services, Social Services Division. And with me is Gus Bedwell, Army veteran, our new Veteran Service Office Supervisor, as well as Jennifer Harvey, Marine Corps spouse.
Yes.
And supervisor with Children, Youth, and Community Connections in our Veterans Employment Program. So we would like to kind of give you some highlights of the accomplishments of Clackamas County in service to our veterans over this last year. First slide, second slide. Our number, go ahead in the second slide, yeah. Number of veterans has gone down a little bit in Oregon and Clackamas County. Some of the older veterans, unfortunately, have been passing away. We've got about 26,000 veterans in Clackamas County out of 283,000 in Oregon. I believe we're the fourth largest population of veterans now. We used to be the third, but we've gone down a little bit. And our known veterans experiencing homelessness is down to 45. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. I want to also acknowledge the veterans from all branches of service within our county workforce, as well as the military family members that are making very meaningful impacts in every single department. Here in Clackamas County, next slide, please. We have an active Veterans Advisory Council, and the goal of the Veterans Advisory Council is to advise yourself and county leadership on all matters as pertaining to our veterans. Jerry Craig, Army veteran, is the chair of the Veterans Advisory Council, so we
Welcome.
really appreciate you being here and everything that you do on behalf of our veterans. We currently include veterans from the Army, the Air Force, and National Guard. Of course, we're open to all branches. The service dates actually span from the Korean War to Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, so that's a pretty long span of service dates. We've got a lot of affiliations represented on that Veterans Advisory Council, including the VFW, American Legion, the Community College, many other organizations. We are recruiting new members, and so if there's anybody who might be watching this, who might be interested, you should be able to click on the link in the presentation to get to that page. We have an active work plan for this next year, including taking a very active role in veteran suicide prevention efforts, increasing veteran employment, and also supporting our outreach efforts to make sure that county veterans get connected to our wonderful Veteran Service Office so that they can obtain those benefits earned through military service. There's a couple of projects as well that are being worked on, a behavioral health summit, a job fair, and also a veteran survey to just find out from any random veterans that live in the county what issues are of matter and of concern to them, and you should be able to click in the link for that as well. I think we're on to your slides. What's the next slide? Yeah, turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Erica. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Harvey, for the record, Employment and Training Services Manager with Children, Family, and Community Connections. We work very closely with the Veterans Services Office and both Gus and Erica to assist veterans with their employment goals. Last year, we served 32 veterans, 22 became employed. We follow our veterans long-term, so in 90 days, 91% still were employed at the same job that they were doing when we worked with them. Their average wage was $20.03 an hour, and they worked in a variety of industries. I wanted to highlight one particular veteran's employment story. He came to us with a long-term career goal of becoming a commercial truck driver. There were several hurdles that needed to be overcome in the path to that long-term career goal. There were legal issues that needed to be resolved, and he needed some medical care. We worked with him through those processes, and he was employed in what we would call a transitional job for about 6 months while we worked with him to overcome those hurdles, and he persevered. Once he had satisfied all of his legal issues and his medical conditions were resolving, we worked with him to get him enrolled into a commercial truck driving school here locally. The cost for that is quite prohibitive, and so we partnered with several other workforce programs. We partnered with the Oregon Department of Vocational Rehabilitation and our local community college to assist us in sharing the costs of that program. At the completion of that program, he completed the testing and was ready to go, but because of COVID shutdown, we had a very hard time getting into the DMV to get his license so that he could begin employment. So we continued to work with him and support him through that process. Once he was able to obtain his license, then we worked on finding an employer where he could have some on-the-job training. And again, we partnered with other workforce programs in the area to cover the costs of that on-the-job training. He ended up being hired at $21.64 an hour with full benefits and just has a wonderful career path ahead of him in an industry that we all know we need more truck drivers.
Yes, we do. It's
Yes,
very
we do.
important.
It's a very successful field for our truck drivers, for our veterans to become truck drivers.
Yes, it is.
So, thank you so much for your support, commissioners, of this program. It's just amazing to see the change when people have career path employment and are able to provide for themselves and their families.
Thank you, Jennifer, for bringing that to our attention. You know, truck drivers right now are really the hubs of all the providing groceries to our grocery stores, medical supplies, and all the goods that, as consumers, we demand. And without our truck drivers, I think we would be in a world of hurt. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll turn it over to Gus now to talk about the Veteran Service Office.
Thank you, Erica and Jennifer. For the record, my name is Gus Bedwell. As Erica mentioned, I'm an Army veteran. I'm the new Human Services Supervisor for the Veteran Services Office. And I will tell you that joining the Veteran Service Office in the last couple of months has actually, in a way, kind of been a homecoming, because every staff member in this team I have had the opportunity to work with at some point in my 20 years of veterans advocacy work. We have an outstanding team of veteran service officers that are doing great work, along with an office specialist who keeps us going and just really just has been the face for the organization, Jackie. It should come as no surprise in the work that we're doing that it doesn't stop even in crazy situations like we're dealing with now. And the veteran service officers were able to see 1,930 veterans, an increase even during this tough situation over last year's numbers, which I thought was fascinating. If you'll see here, they've filed almost 800 claims, but with a majority of them being granted, 640 of them being granted, with almost $11 million added into the economy in Clackamas County through compensated related benefits just from the VA alone.
Wow.
So
Wow, that's something.
yeah, it's a huge number, and it's hugely helpful to families, especially during a time when we have high unemployment and other things that are going on, obviously. If we could go to the next slide, that'd be greatly appreciated. Just to give you kind of a little bit of the caliber of veteran service officer you have working downstairs on the second floor on a constant basis, here's one example of a claim that, if you'll notice from the slide, it was just a few bucks under $100,000 worth of a retro. And what happened here was we had a widow who came in the office and said, my husband passed away, I need help. And the veteran service officer dug into the claim and realized that the VA had erred in not giving the veteran, while they were still alive, service connection for post-traumatic stress disorder. So she worked hard, very hard, through the process and through a number of appeals to actually get the VA to acknowledge, after his death, that there was significant evidence in the file for him to have been service-connected for this claim. And that ultimately decided in her getting benefits as a widow from the VA. And like I said, the retro claim for that was $100,000, just a few bucks under that, and then she gets $1,350 for the remainder of her life, for the rest of her life, tax-free. So, and that's all because a veteran service officer dug in and said, let's look at this a little bit closer. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing.
I
So,
want to really thank our VSOs for doing that. That just brings it all home now, doesn't it?
It really does.
They're a great group.
Yeah, it really does.
And thank you for letting me share the story with you and the work that we're doing, and glad to answer questions at a different time. So, thank you.
Erica?
So I want to talk a little bit now about our efforts to end veteran homelessness. Social services programs house 65 homeless veteran households, 76 adults, 13 children. Our Veterans Administration supported housing, or VASH vouchers, administered by the Housing Authority. 92 are currently housed. 19 more vouchers have been issued, and the veterans are out looking for housing. 35 vouchers at this time were still available. This was from a week or so ago. Our known homeless veterans were reduced 23% from a year ago. We had to redeploy some of our outreach efforts this year just due to the pandemic, but we did also prevent 10 veteran households from homelessness. The next slide, I'm really, really proud of. Performance Clackamas has a goal of 0 unsheltered homeless veterans. We wholeheartedly agree with that goal, and we're working very hard to help accomplish it. So you can definitely see that trend line going in the right direction. 149 back this time 4 years ago, and now we're down to 45. So we're going to keep hopefully moving that line continued till we get to 0.
Thank you.
And
A moment, back when I was a previous commissioner, when I served on this Veterans Committee, the VASH voucher equity issue was a real problem. And you've reported tonight that we have 146 VASH vouchers. Compared to other counties or other counties in our population, how is that comparing?
we certainly have fewer than Multnomah. I don't know how it compares to Washington off the top of my head,
Well,
but
I'm
I
sure
could
it's
look
less
that up
because
and
of
get back to you.
population. But are there veterans programs as robust as ours?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We're all
So
different. But I'm happy to look into that and
Yeah,
get back
so-
to you in terms of the equity.
Previously, and I can't say that for today, but previously, Clackamas County was disproportionately issued or non-issued VASH vouchers. You know, it's up from 146 is, you know, it used to be under 100 when I served on this Veterans Committee. And so you've come a long way in increasing the VASH vouchers, but that's a very important component to ending the 45 houseless veterans on your trend line here. Is there anything that we can do to help you in that endeavor?
Well, the Veterans Village and the Clayton Moore Commons are 2 other important projects. I left them out of the slideshow, but I would say continued support for those projects. And
And we will continue with those projects. Commissioner
Yeah.
Fisher, you're in the queue.
It's Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Schrader is who has her hand up.
Oh, I see a light for Commissioner Fisher, and I'm confused. Whoever wants to talk, go right ahead.
Well, this is Commissioner Schrader, and I just want to thank staff because we started this work back in 2007, 2008. We realized that we had a problem because, you know, we had been working very closely with Camp Withacombe, and staff has really picked up the mantle to really, I do think we actually are leaders in really addressing veterans homelessness in this region from all the hard work of our VSOs and our staff. And I'm pleased that the work is continuing at such a level and that we continue to be leaders in this area. So thank you, Erica, and thank you all for everything that you do for this important issue.
thank you for your kind words, Commissioner. The next few slides, we don't want to take too much more of your time, but the next few slides are really just for the general public so that they can know how to get in contact should they need the services of the Veterans Service Office, Veterans Housing, or Veterans Employment. And we can take a minute and at least repeat those phone numbers if you would like.
Thank you very much. I think they're on the screen, and that's fine.
Okay, well, we really appreciate your support, and it's my honor and privilege.
Well, thank you, Erica, for your presentation today. I know we have special guests with us today, and I'd like to take a moment to recognize them. First, I understand that members of our Veterans Advisory Council are with us here today. These volunteers advise the board on all matters relating to the provision of services to veterans and their families and dependents. If you are a member of the Veterans Council, please stand up and we will be recognized. Thank you very much. Next, we have invited county employees who are veterans to join us tonight. I know some of our video crew in the back are veterans, but they have to stay back there to keep this show running, so they won't be able to come forward. But I want to acknowledge them as well. If you are a county employee who is a veteran, or if any members of the public with us in this room are veterans, please stand at this time. Yeehaw! Thank you very much. I would also like to acknowledge that employees and members of the public who are veterans may be watching Zoom, YouTube, or the Clackamas County Government Channel. For all those veterans with us here tonight and are currently watching, On behalf of Clackamas County, we all thank you for your service. Erica and team, thank you for the presentation tonight. Nancy, what's up next?
Yeah, thank you. So next up is the consent agenda. And Shannon, could you please read the consent agenda for us?
Yes. I have so many screens open. Hold, please. All right. I'm there. I apologize for the delay. Share. First up is elected officials. Approval of previous business meeting minutes. Health, Housing, and Human Services. Approval of amendment number 02 to a subrecipient agreement with LifeWorks Northwest for intensive case management services. Amendment adds $44,301.60 to the agreement, increasing the maximum grant value to $354,412.80. Funding through State of Oregon Community Mental Health Program funds. No county general funds are involved. Approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement, amendment number 3 with the Metropolitan Family Services for continuation of kindergarten partnership innovation services in Clackamas County. This amendment adds $138,405.90 for a new maximum value of $307,123.90 and extends the end date to June 30th, 2023. Funding through State of Oregon Early Learning Division. No county funds are involved. Transportation and Development, approval of local agency agreement number 34887 with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Department of Transportation, delivered federal project for East Systemic Signals and Illumination Construction on behalf of Clackamas County. Total project is $3,717,370 with $3,647,370 in federal funds and $70,000 in road fund match. No county general funds are involved. That is the end of that consent agenda.
Well, that was a quick agenda. You caught me getting a drink of water.
So sorry, Chair.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, is there any commissioner who wishes to remove any item off this consent agenda? I will now entertain a motion.
Well, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a development agency. Nancy Bush.
Yes, the consent agenda for the Development Agency. And Shannon, can you please read this consent agenda?
Approval of a settlement agreement with Streamside Village Condominium Owners Association and acceptance of a deed to resolve issues related to an encroachment created by improvements to Sunnybrook Boulevard, funded through Development Agency funds. No county general funds are involved.
Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the Development Agency consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval of the Development Agency consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as a development agency and convene as a Water Environment Services. Nancy.
Yes, next is the consent agenda for the Water Environment Services. And Shannon, can you please read the consent agenda?
Approval of a contract with Lee Contractors for the Bolton and River Street Force Main Combination Air Release Valve Vault 4 and Intertie Valves Replacement Project. Contract value is $199,900 using West Capital Improvement Funds. No county general funds are involved. Approval of cooperative improvement utility agreement between Water Environment Services and Oregon Department of Transportation related to the I-205 to I-205, I-5 to Oregon 213 project. Fiscal impact is $9,257,002 through West Capital Improvement Funds. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you, Shannon. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Scholl?
I move for the approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for the approval of the Water Environment Services, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as the Water and Environment Services and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statute and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and comments shall be courteous and respectful to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public comment at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading those at the time during this meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. And as always, I take who's in person first. I have 3 blue cards. The first person is Jacqueline Arn. Please come forward. Please state your name, your residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Jacqueline Arn, a Beaver Creek resident, and I have a comment about the vaccine mandates. Today, I wanted to share examples of vaccines causing miscarriages in pregnant women. In the early 1990s, the World Health Organization oversaw massive vaccination campaigns against tetanus in Nicaragua, Mexico, and the Philippines. HCG is a natural hormone needed to maintain a pregnancy. The World Health Organization realized that their tetanus shot stimulated the formation of antibodies against the HCG, rendering women incapable of maintaining a pregnancy, thus becoming a form of concealed miscarriages. I repeat, it was the WHO organization that oversaw the vaccination campaign, knowing that it would cause miscarriages in 3 countries. Current example, as of last month, the New England Journal of Medicine admitted that their original study used to justify the CDC and the FDA in recommending shots to pregnant women was flawed. Researchers conducted a new study using the same data and concluded in a reanalysis of the figures indicated a cumulative incidence of spontaneous miscarriages ranging from 82 to 92%, 7 to 8 times higher than what was originally reported. How many of you enjoy listening to TED Talks? One of the most powerful men in the world states clearly that he expects vaccines to be used to reduce population growth. At a TED Talk in 2010 conference, Long Beach, California, Bill Gates stated in his speech he was innovating to zero. Bill Gates said that reducing world population could be done in part with new vaccines. You can look it up. So what I'm saying is, how safe is the vaccines we're pushing this week on young children? We don't know. And one of the things I brought today was This is from the CDC this week, and this is the counties in the United States, and it shows the new COVID cases. This yellow area shows these have the fewest new COVID cases. It is areas that have no mask mandate, no shot mandate, and no distancing mandate. And so I think this is something we really need to look at. Look at the counties that have the least amount of rules and why. Why do they have less new COVID cases?
Thank you very much. Up next is Leila Blakely. Please come forward. State your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I want to take off my mask like she did. Thank you for having us this evening. A fairly new ad that has been circulating the internet, and I would imagine in most TV channels in Arizona, is of a candidate, Blake Masters, who is running for the Arizona State Senate seat. He opens his ad by exposing the elephant in the room, and in our case, the room being every voting household in the United States. He is not afraid to say that the elections were messed up, and by most states changing the rules within the last minute to flood the zones with mail-in ballots. Oregon being the first to implement the mail-in ballot, and in so doing is considered by many to be the most messed up state because of what appears to be a fraudulent system. As our own Senator Ron Wyden stated his address to the chamber on March 21st, 2018. I'm sure you are all aware of the patriotic wave, a concern that has been spreading across the United States. I, along with many others, would like to see you as our county commissioners speak to our county clerk regarding a full forensic audit for Clackamas County. I would also like to think all of our county clerks here in Oregon would like to prove that the registered voter has nothing to fear in regards to the outcome of their vote at the final day of an election. But as it stands, now better than 50% of the voting base feels the 2020 election was stolen and or fraudulent in some way. Can't breathe. Question is, will this cause lower voter turnout for the 2022 election? Who's to say? If that does happen, we have a low voter turnout who will lose their position because they were not represented by their voting base. I am not saying there is one irregularity, but many. With the combination of ballots mailed and those received, along with the irregularities that can take place, it could be enough to sway the outcome for any one candidate to another candidate. And let us not forget about measures that benefit those who have money and or power to gain. With the passing of HB 2681, we are already experiencing misrepresentation of voter registrations. Now it will be a matter of time, in example, our next general election, to see how blatant the fraud will be when ballots will be accepted 7 days after election should be over. This could extend our election up to 3 weeks rather than closing off in a single day as it should be. I believe it would be the best interest of our county to be ahead of the game by being proactive in this request to our elections division. Rather than compiling the 2022 potential problems on top of the 2020 known problems that have already been uncovered, we need to resolve the issues that are already 1 year overdue. Thank you.
Leila, I'd like to address the issues that you brought up tonight. Currently, Clackamas County is concluding an audit of our elections process. It does not include a software audit, however. And for months and months and months, I requested our county clerk to do that, and she has denied me that request.
Okay.
Secondly, what you may not know, and the electorate out there may not know, a couple months ago, Oregon Secretary of State Shemaya Fagan issued a directive instructing all county clerks in all 36 counties that there would be no forensic audits following elections once they were certified. I think that's criminal. I also think there's not a county clerk elected in the entire state of Oregon that will ever admit that in their own county there is a problem.
You're
Thank you
absolutely
for coming forward. Up next, we have Les Poole. You state your name, area of residence, and sir, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Les Poole. I live in Gladstone. The county's my home. It's our home. I'm here almost every week, and I always feel, or tend to feel, that I'm speaking for more people than myself. There must be at least 5 or 6 others out of the 400,000 that appreciate me coming. So I appreciate always sincerely the opportunity to speak. You can't do it in a lot of places, a lot of countries. And thanks again for reinstating evening meetings, Chair Smith. That was something that I worked real hard to create, and by all means, having the folks that can't come or participate during the day, to give them an opportunity in the evening in your busy schedules is a real plus. I won't say much about the vaccine mandate, except that I recall during the summer, a lady called in from Lake Oswego and reassured everyone that there was no vaccine mandate and to calm down. And since that time, we've seen a proliferation of executive orders from the president, from the governor. These are not orders that go through the legislature and that are vetted. These are orders that come at a pen from one hand. And the overkill is what troubles me. I've talked about overkill from government since the shutdown started. And what I mean by overkill is unnecessary or ineffective or erratic responses. I can think of nothing that's more troubling than a vaccine mandate when an experimental vaccine on fragile, developing 5, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. I'm not sure what the county can do, but for us, I would request that you consider some type of a resolution. It can be a dirty word around here, but in this case, I think some kind of a proclamation or a resolution that honors the decisions of the parents and the family and takes away this draconian one-size-fits-all. Hopefully we can get something on the agenda. I'm not sure what, but this is not okay. Last thing I want to mention real briefly is thank you, veterans. Thank you to my father and to everyone that hasn't already been acknowledged this evening. The price that's been paid has been incredible. So I thank you again for the opportunity. Stay tuned. We'll have more for you on the tolling initiative petitions and getting the right to vote on ODOT's plan to toll us. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the cards I have for in-person testimony. Shannon, we will now move to the online testimony. And how many people do you have in the queue?
Thank you. I have 3 people in the queue tonight.
Please proceed. Thank you.
First up is Dean Sewer. Dean, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dean Sir, and I'm over in West Lynn. Again, I also appreciate that you are meeting in the evening and we're able to join you. I wanted to just make a brief comment about I-205 and ODOT. I'm becoming very engaged in learning about tolling on I-205, I-5, and now across the metro area. ODOT has recently been the recipient, or will be the recipient, of $1.2 billion, that's billion with a B, of infrastructure funds from the Biden transportation bill that has just passed. This is an unexpected increase to ODOT's budget. It does come over several years, but it's a 30% increase to their annual budget. It's a significant amount of funds. And I guess my request of the county is not to ask if these funds will be used to supplement or replace or displace the tolling of I-205. Rather, why won't these funds be used to offset tolling, to eliminate tolling? So we need to ask them why they won't as opposed to if. Tolling to I-205 is no longer just a congestion program, it's a capacity issue. Why should we in Clackamas County be the first in the state to be tolled when we were not at parity capacity-wise with the rest of the metro area? The rest of the metro area, except for the Rose Quarter, which has the same question we have, the rest of the metro area has at least 3 lanes on all of their major highways. Why shouldn't the rest of the metro area pay for that 3rd lane, just like we've paid for theirs lanes? Why are we overburdening Clackamas County? I imagine we'll be able to ask a number of these questions of you, and particularly of ODOT, at the Clackamas County Tolling Town Hall, which is going to be December 1st at 5:30. So I look forward to having a back and forth discussion at that point. Thank you.
Dean, you raised some really valid questions that we don't have answers for because we're not in charge. But I hope you attend our December 1st town hall on tolling, and anybody else listening, you're all invited to submit questions and learn from the ODOT officials who are going to implement tolling. Shannon, who's up next?
Up next is Bill Weir. Bill, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Bill Ware, Damascus. According to Pamplin Media, on October 20, Clackamas County College's Board of Education voted to appoint a replacement to the position that had been previously filled by Dave Hunt. Hunt, a prominent Democrat, resigned on July 15th of this year following his citation for commercial sexual solicitation. In September, Hunt pleaded guilty to offering to pay a fee to engage in sexual contact with a woman. His plea agreement, the former Oregon House Speaker agreed to enter a sex buyers accountability and diversion program. On Tuesday, May 4th of this year, during the board's policy session, Chair Smith asked Clackamas commissioners to issue a statement condemning Hunt's actions and call on his resignation. The chair wanted this board to be consistent in its actions taken previously, as this is a serious criminal charge that was levied against this person, Smith said. I find sex trafficking abhorrent. Sex trafficking is on the rise. While the board didn't come to a consensus, they did, however, agree to put out a statement to highlight the county's values that firmly stand against sex trafficking. Commissioner Martha Schrader, Democrat, said Smith was proposing a, quote, slippery slope, unquote, in condemning someone in the court of public opinion before legal due process is served. Part of my values is never to throw stones at people, Schrader said. If a censure is necessary, I'll go there. As a reminder, Commissioner Schrader had no hesitation in throwing a boulder at Commissioner Scholl, no D after his name, last January for non-woke Facebook postings done before he took office. Commissioner Sonia Fisher, another Democrat, said short of a guilty verdict, it wouldn't be proper or incumbent upon the Board of County Commissioners to condemn him before the court is able to make its judgment. She conveniently didn't mention she couldn't contain her giddiness, excitement, and cruelty at jumping to scorch Commissioner Scholl with no process. It's apparent that you all missed Hunt's guilty plea. I would ask you to do what you promised to do and put out a statement against sex trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's up next? Commissioner Schrader, are you in the queue?
No, I'm not.
Okay, would you go ahead and mute yourself? Thank you very much, Commissioner. Shannon, who's up next?
Next up is Dave Farmer. Dave, you have 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, state your name and residence.
Hi, my name is Dave Farmer, longtime Oregonian. I live in the Willamette part of West Lynn, and I would ask all of our county officials to work with city officials like Milwaukee and Happy Valley, West Lynn, Gladstone, Oregon City, Lake Oswego, and Canby to fight harder against the state government to slow down their program of putting tolls on us. And if all of you would learn more about how negative the tolls are going to be for Clackamas County, I think you would get on board of trying everything you possibly can to stop this program. And so that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Oh, Mr. Farmer, you have no idea. As chair of this commission, I'm in communication with the mayors of the cities affected and even more cities than you mentioned before. And I believe your request will be granted, and that's all I can say tonight on that issue. Shannon, any other people?
That was the end of my list, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all who decided to testify tonight. Up next is Commissioner Communication. And let's see who is first. Let me take a look at my list. Commissioner Scholl, you're up first.
Oh, good.
Oh, goody.
Good evening, Clackamas County, and thank you to our speakers and to our callers this evening. On education, as our county residents become more and more involved in our schools and school curriculum, take a moment and look at GetSmartOregon.org, OregonMomsUnion.com, and ParentalRights.org. Find out how you can take back control of your child's education and curriculum. The Board of Commissioners has little to no control over schools, unfortunately, as we are not in the Oregon Department of Education to school district link. So parents need to regain control and really get active. On tolling and congestion pricing, I was on the Regional Mobility Pricing Project Zoom meeting this afternoon. The public interest in tolling and congestion pricing is going up exponentially each week. Learn more at Oregon Tolling at odot.state.or.us. And please, like one of our callers mentioned, mark your calendar for 5:30 p.m. on 1 December for our town hall on tolling and congestion pricing, and see the county website for the Zoom link. I-205 and I-5 tolling on all lanes, just think about it. Think about it. On the governor race, now the last time I looked, at least 15 candidates, it's probably more by now, have filed to run for governor of Oregon. You can see the list on the Oregon Secretary of State website. Check them out. Who is elected next year will have a profound effect on your life, your health, your wallet, and your liberty. Do not wait until May primary to get involved. You might also look at what these candidates do, not just at what they say. On warming centers, it's getting chilly out there, and don't wait to look at this until it gets freezing temperatures, because high 30 temperatures and rain is the worst condition to be outside in. I'll take 30 degrees or 25 degrees any day with snow than a 37-degree day with rain. Be knowledgeable about where our warming centers are, and see clackamas.us/relief, or check your city website and pass the word. On the Constitution and OSHA fines, life in Clackamas County would be much better if the federal government would live by Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, enumerated powers. Anything not listed in that section of the Constitution is supposed to be states' rights. Look at the U.S. Department of Labor website. Click Oregon on the map, and you will see dozens of huge fines. As an example, a Coos Bay gym received one fine for $195,300, bringing that gym's total OSHA fines to $574,110. In my mind, that spells bankruptcy, most likely. Clackamas County businesses could potentially be fined over COVID-related issues as well. Residents and businesses in this county, you might consider telling your senator and representative to the U.S. Congress to get busy and fix federal abuse and overreach. On mandates, I bet you never thought this would happen during the 30-day shutdown in March of last year. Here we are, 22 months into the COVID situation and living with continuing mandates. Although our 2 attempts at resolutions to push back against COVID mandates failed here in the board, I want to assure Clackamas County residents that I still believe it is important to declare our commitment to protecting Clackamas County residents and businesses from any repressive mandates from the governor or from anyone else that infringe on your rights to bodily integrity, something that is universally recognized as an inalienable and protected human right. Talk to me with your ideas, mshull@clackamas.us. On Veterans Day, thank you, Erica Silver, Jennifer Harvey, and Gus Bedwell for your briefing this evening. And to our veterans, for generations, millions of Americans have answered the call to serve, taking the sacred oath to defend and preserve our nation's ideals of liberty and democracy. On Veterans Day, we honor their service, dedication, and valor, and are forever grateful to their sacrifice. Thank you to the 26,000 veterans of Clackamas County. Enjoy your holiday tomorrow. If you have not done it already, see our Clackamas County websites on Veteran Services and our Veterans Affairs Council. A special happy birthday to the United States Marines. Today's the 246th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Wow. Back on this day in 1775, the Second Continental Congress created the Marine Corps. And I just got to tell you one little quick story. In 1805, 4 years after President Jefferson sent the first task force to North Africa with Marines and sailors to destroy the Barbary Coast pirates. In the Battle of Derna in April of 1805, United States Marines and Arab mercenaries marched 500 miles through the Sahara Desert from Egypt to attack Derna from its undefended eastern border. That's what United States Marines do in 1805 and today. God bless the United States Marine Corps, and thank you, Clackamas County.
Thank you, Commissioner Shull. Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Well, thank you, colleagues. It's good to be here tonight. I have a number of things I'd like to talk about. First of all, I'd like to give a really shout out to the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce with their public policy group. Commissioner Savas and I were able to sit with them and actually do you are hearing my dogs in the background, by the way. That's the squeaky sound you're hearing.
Oh, but that's okay.
I know. In any case, the chamber allowed us to give them an overview of how we're rolling out our homeless social services projects, our local improvement plan. I think they were very pleased with how far we've gotten with that. I think that they were very happy to get accurate information, and I just really appreciated them giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit more about that program. We are at this point with the inclusion of, thank you with my commission for approving 2.3 million of the ARPA dollars. We're about 75% on the way to implementing this plan. We are hopeful additional dollars will come in as promised by the architects of this measure. hopefully by spring of 2022, so we can move on to even a more robust implementation. In the meantime, Commissioner Savas and I, with our chief financial officer, our administrator, we are basically tracking the amount of money that's coming in every quarter to get a sense of what our long-term income is going to be for that. And keeping our fingers crossed, we are expecting that to increase significantly as this tax process rolls up into full implementation. Also, I had an opportunity to go to the Child Care Task Force meeting yesterday, and that is actually been spearheaded by our local workforce committee. It is looking at what it will take to give us increased capacity, both in physical buildings and in number of people who are really willing to work in this field of childcare. One of the things the National Association of Counties is doing is essentially looking at that as an economic driver so people can get back to work, can make a living, and that childcare appears to be in this day and age a key component of that. So I'll keep you updated with that. We just had our second meeting. We did talk about getting an analysis of what the gaps are in our county and what we could be doing to decrease those gaps so people can get back to work and feel that their children are being safely cared for. Also attended the Tourism Development Council meeting today, and I know that Commissioner Fisher was there as well as Commissioner Savas, and there are great things happening on the mountain. I know that our colleagues up at Timberline Lodge are looking at a great expansion that is going to be connecting government camp directly to the ski areas with gondolas, enabling people to really increase the opportunity of where they get to ski and where they go to ski on the mountain. And that for us is a huge, huge tourism driver. And it will really mean greater recreation opportunities here in our county. And finally, I just want to say thank all the veterans that have served us through these years, and to remind them that Clackamas County is seen as a leader in this at this point in veteran services delivery systems, and that I hope we continue to be number one in the state. I hope we continue to honor our veterans and those who served, and that it now becomes our duty to serve them. So thank you very much tonight. And all right, I guess I'll hand it over to Commissioner Fisher. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Excellent presentation tonight regarding our veteran services. Really proud of the work that we do. I don't know if Commissioner Scholl and Chair Smith know that my father was a decorated World War II and Korean War veteran. He actually was in the Air Force, shot down in the Pacific Ocean during World War II, saved airmen that were also shot down with him and survived 3 days on a raft before being rescued. And he passed away when I was in my early 20s. And I so wish I would have really sat with him and talked with him about his experience. It wasn't until I watched the movie Unbroken, and in the beginning of that movie, there is a plane that crashes into the ocean. And I was talking to my Uncle Reuben before he passed, and he said, yes, that's exactly what happened with your dad. Crashing into the ocean, plane breaking apart, raft coming up, and then in the middle in that vastness, staying there wounded and hurt, and in the effort to fight for our freedoms. And fighting for our freedoms and this amazing democracy in this country that we have, and here at the local government, we have all of our residents, over 420,000 of them that depend on us to do the important work that meets their needs in our community. And what an honor it is to live in this country and to have these forms of local government and deliberation. And truly, our veterans have been the security blanket for all of us in making sure that we are able to have this public discourse. And in speaking of the residents of our community, I did want to let my fellow commissioners know that I worked with Emily Klepper, our wonderful Chair Smith's policy advisor and our wonderful expert in our county on the homeless services measure. And what I'm going to add this to my own letter unless this commission decides it should be incorporated into the letter that we all approved. But I wanted to make sure that all aspects of what the community, the nonprofits and the businesses and the other elected leaders were concerned about were addressed. So I have prepared, I'm going to read this. In addition to the explanations provided in Clackamas County's response letter, I wanted to assure the community that the board is aware of the immediate action requesting the need to ensure continued funding for existing contracts. We value continuity of service provision for our most vulnerable community members. While we do not interfere with public procurement processes, we do want to promote systems that serve our community. I welcome more information from specific nonprofits explaining what services are of concern, what the expectation of timelines are, and what the consequences are of not receiving the information regarding renewals. If the commission would like to just let the staff know to incorporate that into the letter, it's not too late. They're in the process of gathering the contact information to send that letter out. If not, I will send that separately under my own name. I just wanted to make sure that the community, the elected leaders, and all the businesses know that we have listened to all of their concerns.
Thank you for Commissioner Fisher. As you know, there is a regular order of business that we follow at the Board of County Commissioners, and that is you bring items before our county administrator under issues. If the board agrees, we take it up in a policy session. If the board agrees, we vote on it in a board meeting. We had denied your request this Tuesday. We are denying it today. Any commissioner can do and send whatever emails they want. Thank you very much. For your communications, I'm up next. And as your chair, I have a sincere gratitude and heartfelt emotions to send to our veterans. I come from a family filled with veterans. My father did not serve because he was health-wise was unable and was not accepted. But because of my grandfather and because of my uncle served on an aircraft carrier in the Navy. And it was the very first flat top commissioned out of Fort Vancouver in Washington, a brand new aircraft carrier called the Omni Bay. And he was issued a plank certificate, and there's a gentleman in the back from the Navy who knows what a plank certificate is. On that maiden voyage, he was sent to the South Pacific. He was a cook on that aircraft carrier, and this aircraft carrier, the Omni Bay, was struck by kamikaze pilots from the Japanese. And this aircraft carrier caught fire, and many of the people, our brave soldiers who were on board fighting it, were killed. And he was summoned from below decks, where he was a cook, and he grabbed one of the rifles and tried to shoot down the aircraft carriers, tried to shoot down the airplanes that was sinking the aircraft carrier. He was also thrown overboard, and he was one of the few sailors who had a life jacket. But he could swim. He was a very good swimmer. And he gave his life jacket to one of his other seamates. And they floated for 3 days, and he was eventually picked up by merchant marines. During that time, there was not much communications during World War II. But my aunt, and they were married just before he left, so they developed a code in letters they could send back and forth, and I've given many speeches on this when I speak to military installations. And the code that my uncle wrote to my aunt was this: "Honey, hi, how are you? Things are fine. I've had quite an eventful event baking cookies below and serving our soldiers. I served them well. However, on one particular night, I baked the cookies, and they were in the oven so long that they burned black to a crisp, and I had to throw them overboard." And that was one of the few letters that were not censored by the United States Navy, and that made it through. My aunt did not hear from my uncle for many, many weeks, but she knew if nobody arrived at her door to give her the news that her husband had died, then he must be alive. And this was during a time when communications were very scant. I'm a life member of VFW Post 1324, the auxiliaries here in Oregon City, not because of my uncle's service, but because of my grandfather's service in World War II in Spain and Europe. I was able to document his service, and I have proudly become a lifelong member of VFW Post 1324, and I cherish that association probably more than any other associations that I'm a part of. I will always be here for our veterans. My veterans need to know that we are here for them. We will honor them and do the best possible that we can to maintain their integrity. And because they served, I am able to serve you. Because veterans fought for our freedoms and our liberties, we are able to have free and honest elections in this country and in this county, and I honor that above all others. With that in mind, I think we will adjourn this meeting, and thank you very much.